Sadly, many of us will know the devastating impact of suicide because we've confronted it in our own lives. We've had the phone call, we've heard the news which stops us in our tracks. Each and every suicide is a tragedy. It leaves anguish for those left behind and can rip through families and communities. This devastation is exacerbated by stigma. For many, the grief is cloaked in a silence and fuelled by an unwarranted sense of shame. And in many parts of the world, that is all compounded in a cruel way by the fact that suicide is still a crime. I'm honoured to participate in this launch of Lifeline International's campaign to end the criminalisation of suicide. As you've heard, the campaign aims to challenge and rectify the laws that criminalise suicide in the 25 countries, at least 25 countries, where it is still a crime. These outdated and punitive laws exacerbate the isolation and stigma experienced by individuals who are most at risk, hindering their chance of seeking and receiving vital support. In my own nation, during my lifetime, laws criminalising suicide have been taken off our law books, and there's been a huge change in how we think about, talk about, and react to suicide. In my childhood and teenage years, I remember the lengths families would go to try and disguise a death by suicide. Because my father was a psychiatric nurse in my family home, mental health and suicide were more openly and frankly discussed, but that was truly unusual. Generally, suicide was only talked about in whispers or in euphemisms. Now suicide is the subject of a national conversation and of national concern. Trying to reduce deaths by suicide is hard because suicide is complex. There is no single cause. Sometimes it's linked to mental health problems, but not always. Social and economic pressures play their part. Whatever the reason or reasons, it is an act of last resort for those who feel that they have no other options. And it is incumbent upon all of us, individually and as one community across the world, to make sure we do all that we can to ensure that people receive the help they need when and where they need it. Lifelines, literally and metaphorically, lifelines. Each individual death is a tragedy, and that knowledge adds to the terrible weight of the global statistics. 700,000 people take their own life each year, and each of these deaths intimately affects around 60 people: family, friends, work colleagues, classmates, and the list goes on. In 2015, world leaders gathered and made a commitment to reduce deaths by suicide by 1/3 by 2030. This is a goal that can and must be achieved. However, the world is not currently on track to achieve it, and criminalisation of suicide remains one of the major barriers. Criminalisation adds to distress, it prevents people getting help, and it prevents them using vital services like lifelines. This environment of criminalisation heightens stigma, makes people feel as if they're outcasts and abandoned. Criminalisation also makes it harder to support those at risk of suicide in the future. It prevents collection of accurate data, holding back the development of effective suicide prevention strategies. While supporters of criminalisation argue it is a deterrent, the evidence does not support this. Indeed, some studies show criminalisation may be associated with higher suicide rates and that women might be particularly at risk. So there is a clear case, an ethical case, and a practical case to end the criminalisation of suicide. And that's why I'm very pleased to be here lending my support to Lifeline International's campaign. And that will help provide real solutions for those who feel that they have come to the end of the road. There is hope, and that should inspire us to greater action including in support of this campaign.